It's Wednesday, March 4th, 2026. It's about 7:25 a.m. Central Time as I'm recording this video. So a little over an hour before the market opened here in the US. And on screen, we've got NIO just for this morning with the pre-market. We've got red at that 4 a.m. Eastern Time, kind of 5-minute incremental window that I sometimes track. And then we've got some red here as well. Curious what the day will have for us. On the left-hand side, you've got, and in fact, what I pulled up is the last 2 days that NIO uh, traded 100 million shares within a short-term time frame was back here in October, and that was after NIO had made its move up to the high for the year, which is about $8. And since then, we've seen the decrease on volume with only one day since then of 100 million share trade volume. So I'll just keep tracking this because we're 6 days from earnings. So we've got a few trade days left. And then I want to see what happens. Are we going to see another 100 million share trade volume day before or on earnings or after? I have no idea. But in the super short term, that's what I'm tracking. We'll come back to this before I close the video off probably. So, but I want to point this out because this is from one of the analysts covering NIO, did a review and shared that NIO had the highest weekly number of orders to start March. March, of course, is the third month in the first quarter. And the first quarter, if NIO is going to have a full year profitability in 2026, the first quarter is definitely going to be the hardest one to do it in, I think, based on Chinese New Year and how deliveries are usually lower. But they've done pretty well, certainly with the ES8 sales so far through the first couple of months. And then also they do have a quiet, potential with the swapping and charging that went on. I have no idea what those, profitable numbers might look like for the quarter just with respect to that, but it's something to keep in mind, kind of file that away in the back of my mind. That's the way I'm thinking about it anyway. So we'll see and keep tracking this moving forward. Also, I did want to mention, and I actually want to make a point here about hype masquerading as value, but also controlling the narrative and how important that is for some, like the guy who bought this platform. I believe to have control when you're a billionaire, buying a platform can be beneficial to you because you can control or suppress whatever you want really on it. And I've noticed this, and it's one of the reasons at the bottom of the screen I have the message there to subscribe, follow, and click the notification bell because some funky things go on sometimes. A lot of my long-term subscribers have said sometimes they have to go back in and press the notification bell again after they've already done it previously. It gets deselected somehow, which is kind of strange to me. But I actually caught this algorithm yesterday while I was doing a video, and that's what put it on my radar. So I started, looking back, and I saw the numbers on one of my videos go up, then go down, then the post got removed completely and then put back with a different number later. And so I also recognized, and the last couple times I did it, when the views were seemingly not coming or people, were not finding my posts on this algo, I was doing this and it was working up until yesterday. And these numbers dropped way off. And so that's just something I'm tracking and have in the back of my mind. But also related to that, I want to tie in because since we're talking about the guy who I've nicknamed Mr. Overhype, this is one of the things that he said in an earnings call. And typically the beginning, let's say, I don't want to say it's 5-10 minutes. It depends on how long he talks. Usually at the beginning of these calls, he's usually got a focus for hyping something. And this is what he said. I'm just going to read this whole paragraph. He said, I see a path. I'm not saying it's an easy path, but I see a path of Tesla being the most valuable company in the world by far. Not even close, like maybe several times more than. I mean, there is a path where Tesla is worth more than the next top 5 companies combined. There's a path to that. I mean, this is hyping at its finest. And now if we look at where this stock is trading right now, it's about $400 pre-market, just under $400. This stock and the company has benefited so heavily from his ability to hype and hype and hype. And it doesn't seem to matter that a lot of the things he promises don't come to fruition because he's so good at hyping things. And so what I've said, kind of stated as an overview for this, is hype masquerades as value. And that's the era that we're living in. But I also think it helps when, let's say, you can rely on government support and subsidies to get to profitability, which is one of the things that was critical for the company. And also when you have someone who can monetize hype the way that he's been able to. But now I want to come back over here and talk about how, and let's connect dots here a little bit, because it was full year profitability for Tesla. That after that came in, that's when the stock really started going. And then a couple of other things happened, and they were very helpful and or strategic on the part of Elon. I will give him credit for that. Doing a split was smart. When they did it, those have been timely for him and well played on that. Also, the inclusion of the S&P 500 with Tesla, that was huge. So those things are not, I don't think, going to look the same for NIO. But I do think that it's pretty fascinating to consider that NIO has a chance at full year profitability here in this year of 2026. I still think they are not on a lot of people's radar. Very few Americans are even familiar with this company at this stage. So, like it or not, I think the reality is it's still very early. But what happens if NIO has a full year of profitability in 2026, and that would likely get reported in March of 2027? And what if things like the hype start not mattering as much? What if the value proposition and the way that not just the market, but everyone starts looking at things changes? What if things shift a little bit? What if, let's say, China and this company, NIO, this upstart, ends up really solidifying itself as a legitimate global premium luxury brand? What happens then? I'm just thinking out loud. I want to share some of this and also tie in some of the short-term stuff that we've got going on. Because again, I think tracking things into and through this earnings, where we'll get the announcement from NIO of the first quarter profitability. I think the market, I think the trade volume specifically is what I'm going to use as kind of an indicator for whether or not people saw this coming or were paying attention or not. I think if we see an obvious uptick and we see, numerous days of 100 million share trade volume on the daily side of things, especially if they come in like a shorter window. Let's face it, we've only had about 3 since dating back to what I think the beginning of October, certainly the end of October. But anyway, I wanted to share some of this and see if others are thinking about it as well. And at what point maybe does hype matter a lot less, and what the underlying business model and the strength of the business model that NIO has, as an ID. It takes time to prove that out, to crush the short thesis, the bear thesis, as I referenced in the video from yesterday. But once they've done that, where do we see the stock price then? And what changes and what other things could change even globally before then? I think there's a lot in flux right now. And that's one of the reasons I find this to be the most compelling time to be covering the company and the stock and tracking that and a whole lot more. So in any event, let me cut myself off and get this thing up and out here, hopefully before the market opens. And God bless you and your loved ones, wherever you are. I'll see y'all again very soon.